How do you market something that you can't talk about?
You just say, there's something coming, and you don't say what's coming. It's a secret.
Just wait. Just wait. Yeah.
And another key phrase is like, there's more.
Yeah, there's more.
But wait, there's more.
This episode of the Fabricator Podcast is brought to you by Nuts, Bolts, and Thingamajigs. Interested in a career in welding, CNC machining, or metal fabrication? Apply for scholarships through NBT to help fund your future in the skilled trades. Submit your application today for the fall 2023 semester. The deadline to apply is March 31st.
Welcome to the Fabricator Podcast. Today's guests are Ginny Wendt-Vecchio, and the marketer known as Jeanette from Chicago Metal Rolled Products in the city of Chicago. Yeah. And we're going to have a nice chat with them. They also left us some cool beanies. So
swag.
I mean, lots of stuff.
Yeah.
We got hats.
It's awesome. We encourage all fabricators to get airtime on this podcast by sharing their stuff with me.
Yeah, just bring your stuff.
And one day we'll be gladly to return the favor when we finally get a budget.
And we get more than just stickers.
Yeah.
Could you sit in the chair? You could if you help us out.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
If you
bring us some tape measures.
Yeah, if you're in the Chicago area, we highly recommend stopping by. We'd love to schedule something. And you can reach us at podcast@thefabricator.com.
Podcast. Singular.
Yeah. Yes, one podcast.
So in the conversation, we touch upon the work that Chicago Metal Rolled Products did for what was then the University of Phoenix Stadium, which is now State Farm Stadium. And it got me to thinking, stadiums.
Stadiums.
Where's that? Let's start with that. What is the last stadium you were in?
The last Thursday would have been the Resch Center in Green Bay, Wisconsin for a concert. Old Dominion.
It reminds me of the time that what's his name? Who's the coach for the Bears? Old man.
Ditka,
Coach Ditka was. I think he was doing some analysis. It was like NFL draft and players from Old Dominion. He said, "Oh yeah, he's from Mo Dominion."
Mo Dominion?
Mo Dominion.
More or less.
Good
Dominion.
old Mo Dominion.
better than Mold Dominion.
The last stadium I was in, I was at Wintrust Arena.
Okay.
See the mighty DePaul basketball team take on University of Connecticut like a couple weeks ago.
How'd that turn out?
Entertaining. My favorite part of the whole evening was we had pretty decent seats, and Mark Aguirre, former DePaul Demon great, if you know him on the Bad Boys, he's from Chicago. Played a little bit with the Mavs right out of college, I think.
Known as a Piston, though, really.
Yeah.
Primarily. It depends. I don't know. I'm kind of fond of those early Mavericks teams. So anyway, so he's sitting across the court on the front row, and I'm pretty sure he's got like a collection of tickets, like 3 or 4 of them that he owns, and apparently goes to the games by himself, so no one sits by him. So he's sitting down there, and I'm going to a buddy. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go down there and get a picture with him. And then I let time go by. It's halftime. He's like, are you going to go over there? I'm like, did you see that dude during the game? He's fairly into it. I don't think he's very happy right now.
He's not happy a lot if he's really
hinging
like his emotions on
exactly.
DePaul basketball.
But anyway, I love those big boys that could play underneath the goal, which no one does anymore. So anyway, that's my stadium story. Gareth, what's your last stadium you were in?
I mean, tomorrow I'm going to Pfizer Forum in Milwaukee.
Oh,
so I'm going to count that as the last one since it's less than 24 hours away.
Who are the? I assume it's the Bucks.
Bucks versus Celtics.
The Celtics.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean, by the time this airs, that'll be, it's going to be close to playoff time, maybe.
Right.
But
both will be alive though.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, top 2 teams in the East.
Yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. What's your favorite stadium?
Well, I'm partial to Lambeau Field.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I saw LSU play Wisconsin up there, and it's a great place to see a ball game.
Yeah,
football wise.
Yeah,
that was a close game, I think. Right?
Oh yeah. LSU had a chance to win toward the end, and I forget the kid's name. The QB throws an interception with like minute change left on the clock. So needless to say, the Wisconsin fans are kind of
drunk
and
happy.
Yes,
Fifth quarter was coming.
It was a pleasant day up to that moment, even as they trailed. I thought, but no, it was we actually sat in the expansion.
Oh,
on the
up
end
at
zones.
the top. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was good.
So what's your favorite stadium then, Dan?
I
mean, besides LSU.
So even LSU, I mean, so that's just like fond memories. It's not very conducive to, metal bleachers and crappy beer selection and, I don't know, a football product where there's only like 3 decent games a year.
Dan's a graduate of LSU,
I love
just
Tigers,
for transparency.
Let's be real.
Yeah.
Favorite football would be Lambeau. Favorite baseball probably be, I'm a Cubs fan, but I like Milwaukee a little bit better. That Pfizer Forum is really nice.
It's really nice.
I saw an NCAA tournament game there last year. You're right on top of the action. Winchester Arena is very good locally.
Yeah.
Because there's not a bad seat in the joint.
Well, we went at FabTech. We went to the Hawks game.
Oh yeah,
we were up there a little
another
bit.
State Farm,
but yeah,
that's that stadium's older than I would have thought.
Yes,
late '90s, I think it was built.
But I think they were the original home of the Hawks.
The Omni.
The Omni.
There you go.
There you go.
Yep. Well, Dominique Wilkins.
Dominique, yeah.
Yep.
What's your favorite stadium?
Baseball. I like PNC Park in Pittsburgh.
Haven't been there.
Beautiful.
Look at you.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Basketball. I like Fiserv. Soccer, though, I go over to England. It's been a while since I've been there, but Liverpool, Anfield Stadium, really nice. But you get it if my buddies and I would go to a lot of lower division games. Those are fun, like the most fun.
Right.
Really.
Yeah.
There's a team called Millwall in London. They're really gritty, and their fan base they're pretty rough. And
also gritty.
Their stadium's called the Den, and it's just like in a very industrial area of London.
Huh.
It's kind of a dangerous walk to get there. Their fans are always angry. They've got a whole stand that's called the Cold Blow stand. That's what it's called. It's just everything about it. It's just the away visitor section has to sit upper deck. The sections next to them have to be open just for their own safety.
For safety. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow, that's dedication.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Den.
Is that the team that Ryan Reynolds didn't purchase?
Yeah. That's not Wex.
Who would be a good purchaser for that team?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know who owns Millwall.
Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp should buy that team.
We could buy Millwall.
Well, cool. I think you'll enjoy this conversation, even though it may only be stadium related for about 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Anyway, enjoy.
This episode of the Fabricator Podcast is brought to you by FMA. Master the fundamentals of roll forming operations at the FMA World Class Roll Forming Certification course. Join us April 11th through 13th in Elgin, Illinois for a specialized course to learn the history, terminology, and processes of roll forming. Register online today at fmamfg.org/events.
Hello. Welcome to today's episode of the Fabricator Podcast. I'm Dan Davis, Fabricator Magazine, joined by Jim Gorzik.
Hello.
And Gareth Slager. And our special guests, Ginny, Wendt, and Jeanette, who's doing a one-name share thing, Beyonce thing. They're with Chicago Metal Rolled Products, fab facility out of Chicago with a long history, certain expertise not commonly found in the industry. And we're going to chat with them about their business and some of the work they've done and their involvement with the business. First off, can you give us a little bit of a overview of your company and your roles within it?
Sure. Do you want to know the history?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
We
got nothing but time.
So my maternal grandfather started the company in the early 1900s. Down the street was Ryerson Steel. If they came out with a machine that was made 4x4 by quarter-inch angles, he made sure that he had the machine that would curve the 4x4 quarter. So we started, or I wasn't around back then, but they started, that's how they started getting the curving machines. They were basically fabricators. My grandmother didn't work there, but she kept the books. she had an 8th grade degree, and he had a 6th grade degree. And that's how, I know, it's amazing when you think about it.
What was his background to have that knowledge to be able to kind of develop a machine?
I think he started working when he was in 6th grade, and he worked for a metal fabricator. Okay. And then, you know, there's always women. My grandmother probably said, you better buy that business. So they had 2 daughters, my mom and my Aunt Glore, and they, of course, were not. I think my mother was a receptionist before she was married for a year, summer. Then they raised their families, and at that point, my dad and my uncle were kind of running the company after my grandfather passed, and my brother, one of my brothers, and then they decided to split the company. So my aunt, I believe the story is they flipped a coin, So one side got the manufacturing section, or the fabricating, and one got the bending rolling. So our family got the bending rolling. And that was in 1984. My mom started working at that point. She was in her 60s, came down there, and my 2 brothers were working there at the time. And they built it up from more of an angle ring business to bending and rolling of all sizes. So now the biggest bender roller is you can go up to a 44-inch beam. Do you know the difference between hard way and
one of my favorite things?
Right,
yes, doing it the hard way.
We can do it the hard way. And so
I think I might have actually used that in an interview with somebody from Chicago Metal Roll, and I know that seems hard. Oh yes, we do the hard way.
Right.
Yeah, I meant to say that.
And now we're on. So I'm 3rd generation. I'm there with my brother Joe, who runs it also, and we're 50-50 owners now, and we have 3 children in the business in their 30s. My brother Joe, his son Christopher's there, and I have 2 daughters, Elise and Jeanette.
Great.
Hi.
And
Nice.
how long have you been with the company?
About 7 years on and off. So when I just got out of college, I was working part-time, and I'd go down there, work, you know, wherever I could really. And then I went down there full-time. After that, I wanted to get out of Chicago. I was young, and so I moved to San Francisco, worked in SaaS, software sales, for a while, and then in 2018 came back full-time.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's been fun.
Yeah. So
It is fun.
get back to how large is the company now in terms of employees?
We have around 65 to 68, depending, you know, how life is. It seems to us, we laugh. If somebody stays 6 months, they'll stay 38 years. I mean, they'll be there 40 years.
I think that's a common kind of tale of metal fabrication.
Especially now.
Right.
And the people that stay are truly artists, the machine workers. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can I just ask you questions about your location in the city?
Yeah,
sure.
Because I think, you know, one of the things we've had, our first guest was from a company who manufactures in the city, and that dynamic of being, you know, most people assume large metropolitan areas don't have that fabricating. And in the Chicago area as a whole, tons of it, but still there are pockets in the city where the stuff's being done. What could you share with everybody where your facility is located?
We had an intern one summer, and he lived right near there. And he said, I thought you made steel. And I'm like, oh, son, we don't make the steel. But we are right in the middle of a residential area.
Right.
So, and we always have been. I was saying before, there's a woman, Tina, that has worked for us for a long time, who's wonderful. She was 17, graduated high school, walked down the block, applied for a job, got a job, and now 40 years later,
that's awesome.
Tina is still there.
Yeah. That's awesome.
The neighborhood changes a little bit, the dynamics, but it's still, we have a lot of employees from our area, which we're fortunate to have.
Yeah. And do some still walk to work?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They'll go home for lunch.
Yeah, so we're talking like in the city near Midway Airport. I don't even know what the neighborhood would be called.
Brighton Park.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so like bungalows and
bungalows,
turn a
2
corner.
flats,
Yeah, to the point, and this is one of these things where you talk about admire people's skills. People that have to make deliveries to your shop.
The poor truck drivers.
The shipping,
We're sorry.
Shipping is where goes there. Been there a long
is your
time.
Google rate? Because that's the other thing I've learned is like you look up Google ratings for like manufacturing companies, And there's a few in there, great people to work with, love it. And there's the rest of them are all truck drivers. Like, no one's at the gate. I had to wait 30 minutes. They're just angry people.
It's all truck drivers, but we have a really good rating. I'm very
That's
proud
awesome.
of it.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
It is awesome, and they mostly are truck drivers.
People who start getting into logistics for the 15 minutes. People who you see all the time making these deliveries, I assume.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
The steel suppliers come every day.
You probably have sometimes a need for specialty steel for the type of work you do, I would imagine.
Yes.
So that vendor base is probably varied a little bit.
Very, very.
Well, and imagine fitting a staircase onto a truck. Like our shipping team is something we don't talk about enough, but just even putting a staircase, a spiral helical thing onto a flatbed is its own, creative task and skill in its own. So we give a lot to them.
A lot of credit to the shipping department.
There's some things to cover, so I just want, now that you brought it up, just the scale of what your company works on. You mentioned everything from like stairs to like, give me something like even the Super Bowl.
Tanks.
Yeah. I mean, we just finished watching the Super Bowl as we're taping this the night before, and your company did work for what was then University of Phoenix Stadium, now State Farm, whatever they call it. But huge scope. Customers all over the place. Can you maybe some of your favorite projects that you've seen your company work on, or high profile?
Do you want to? Why don't
Sure,
you take it off?
Well, this project, this stadium, the Arizona Cardinals, this was back in 2003, and my cousin actually was the one who was like, "Hey, I think we did that stadium," and I had to look up because it did change names.
Right. Yeah.
And yes, it is the same stadium. It was, I believe, 400 tons of 12-inch rectangular or square tube for the roof structure. So that whole trellis structure on the top is what we contributed to.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting in that case that they actually opened the top last night, and they haven't done that like in, I don't know, X amount of years. I guess because of the heat most of the time. So at least, it worked. I'm always happy when things work for people, because around my house that doesn't tend to be the case. It just gets added to a list.
Yeah.
One of the things I think, looking at like some of your blog posts through the, I guess as they were or have been posted, it seems like you have a lot of inherent knowledge, right? You're talking about employees being there a long time, so they get a good grasp for that. How does that factor into the projects you do? Because it seems like there's a lot of people who have given testimonials for for the results. Like there's not a lot to do after. Like the fit up is very good.
Why don't you get into?
Well, the Google
one
back
is
to our favorite projects. It doesn't matter if it's like a $200 project or a $2 million project. We love every single one of them, and we're very invested into them. But I would say most recently, one of my favorite projects is the Google Mountain View campus. I think it's called the Googleplex. It was Bjarkle Ingels Group. I believe I'm saying that right, but we'll double check that.
I'm guaranteeing you they're not going to hear this.
Googleplex, yeah.
You never know.
Yeah. So this was back in 2017, and we really didn't even know what this structure was.
Oh, wow.
So we did all of this 8-inch, I think it was 8 5/8 tube, and also 16-inch extra heavy pipe for this job. I mean, it kind of looks like House of Dragons type of structure. Yeah. It's amazing. And we didn't know what it was. We were spreading rumors around our office.
Yeah, it looks like fabric.
We were saying it was to hold a blimp.
Yeah.
We were saying it was to
drone research for
and
Google.
They didn't want anybody to know.
It was a dragon cage.
Exactly,
It was totally wrong.
So we did all of the pipe and tube, which was really cool. And you can see it came out amazing. But then a couple years later, in 2019, my Uncle Joe landed this giant Unistrut project for very similar location. We're wondering, I wonder if this is for the same location. So it took almost over a year, and it was just truckloads and truckloads of Unistrut, which is this tiny little like tracking system almost.
Oh, wow.
So that was actually used for the roof. So all on the roof, they have these things called dragon scales, which are solar panels. And all of the solar panels are connected to the roof through this Unistrut tracking. So we curved all of the Unistrut for all of the roof, which was an insane
I was about to
task
say,
in itself.
Like miles of it, I would imagine.
Just truckloads and truckloads. But they're very specific about how these pieces had to arrive. So each piece had to be cut to length, which we usually don't do. We can, but we prefer to give everybody a little cushion on their steel. But each piece they wanted cut to length, labeled in 2 places, and packed a certain way.
Huh.
So you just imagine, you know, and rolled, obviously. So
do you have to process this like one section at a time? Just because I imagine you don't have enough floor space to kind of like.
Exactly. As soon, right, like you said, we're in the middle of the city. So as soon as we had a truckload ready to go, we would get a truck there and get it out the door. Yeah. So that's why we have a really quick lead time.
It was an assembly line.
Yeah,
we literally had an assembly line. So in the afternoon, my brother Joe and my nephew Christopher were really involved in this, which was great. I mean, they were out there all the time. And in the afternoon with the second shift, maybe they were a little short on people. Who gets called, Ginny, get out here. Right? So I'm out there one time, and somebody had to be at the end of the unistrut beginning to put the label on. My brother, okay, Ginny, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 5. And it gets getting louder and louder and louder. And I look at him, and he's just laughing at me. And I thought, okay, there we go. He abused us during that time.
But hey, it was worth it.
It was fun.
I mean,
it was really fun. It was a time that we had to come together.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of scope, all
Yes.
hands on deck type
Yes.
moment.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we're all over the facility, not just in the office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and actually, I didn't even mention this. Is the coolest part about this job also. So before we started rolling the unistrut, we were like, all right, let's take apart this machine, service it, make sure it's good to go. Took the machine apart, and we knew it was very old, but we looked at the plate. It's from 1929.
Oh, wow.
1929. The machine that we rolled all of the steel for the outside was from 1929.
The unistrut.
So, I mean, talk about like a blend of the new and the old coming
Right.
together and that whole fusion. It turned out beautifully, and yeah, we're really proud of it.
To have people who are in tune to make older equipment work like that, you know, how's the I don't call it replacement, but influx of younger people? Because as retire, you know, I imagine there's people that have headed out of retirement at your company, as we've seen all over metal fabrication. How's that transition been on the shop floor in terms of trying to like kind of share institutional knowledge?
Our foreman Raphael was another one. Started. Has he been 40?
It's been 49 years.
At least
he's been at the
49 years.
company.
Wow.
He's been there. So a lot of it is in his head.
Yeah.
But
But he's
he
done it
teaches
probably
everybody
all those machines.
all those years. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's over 100 machines. That's one of our strengths is
Yeah.
that there's machines that my grandfather bought, machines that we bought at FabTech.
Yeah.
And we just keep pushing. But yeah, he's teaching younger people. We really made a push to try to get people
Yeah.
to learn what he did,
Yeah.
what he knows.
Right. And has that transition been pretty good?
It is, because the people that are in that position now really want to learn. Like
Yeah.
they really are fascinated by it, and they want to learn.
Do they feel like they're learning something that not a lot of people know?
For sure.
Yeah.
We're such a little niche
Right.
that there are not a lot of bending rollers in the country.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And then we had proprietary stuff, so we tweak it.
So when you say proprietary stuff, is that related more to the equipment being used that may have been developed in-house, or is it more related to what you might do during a bend, say like heating or something like
Both.
that? Both. So, I mean, you confidently say like you feel like your company can do stuff other people might not be able to?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you say, Jeanette?
Yeah, well, and we're adding to it, and we're not disclosing yet what we're doing, but we're going to be adding to our capabilities very shortly in different ways that we never have done before. So
Yeah.
it's exciting to see the advancements in technology, and also using machines that are from the 1929 in the same realm on similar jobs. It's cool to see.
How do you market something that you can't talk about?
You just say, there's something coming, and you don't say what's coming. It's a secret.
Just wait.
Just hang
wait.
on.
Yeah.
And another key phrase is like, there's more.
Yeah, there's more.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah.
Do you find that do customers put you in a position to innovate, or is it something that you see that maybe there's an opportunity or a spot, a void to fill in the marketplace?
Again, I would say both. We have a huge file. Cannot do, like that we passed, that we just keep hold on to.
No kidding.
Yeah. And just, it's coming in the future.
You literally do it like it's sitting on a desk somewhere.
Yes,
in
we're
manila
very
folders.
paper heavy.
We're really paper heavy. Yes.
Mhm. Wow.
And so we looked for, And then people do call us all the time.
Yeah.
We love to hear from architects,
Right.
or architects and engineers calling us before they do anything. What can you do? They come and visit our, we don't want to say who, but they come to visit to see what our capabilities are and can we do this?
As you're going about some of these projects, the phone calls you're getting, do they come from like architects exclusively, or do you get them from like other fab shops, contractors?
I would say the majority of our business comes from the steel contractors. So, it's architect, it's engineer, it's general contractors, steel contractors, and then us, because no one has that bending or rolling machines. But we really like to hear from the architects first when they're thinking of it, because we're putting their creation, their idea, in making it a reality.
Mm-hmm.
So it's best to include us.
Right. No.
In pushing limits. So have you ever had a job where you said we could not do that, even though you've got 100+ years of experience? Have you had something like that?
Well, I mean, we try to obviously work with everybody we can, and if somebody calls us saying they have an idea, we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that we can make this idea that they have in their mind, right? Like she said, make it a reality. So if they come to us with an idea, typically if we can't do it, we'll say, well, can we tweak your design a little bit, to fit our capabilities and make this balance so we can create something. But I mean, we have a bunch of customers, Vector Custom Fabricating, they're in Chicago, great group of people that we work with a lot. And they're more in sculptural art, but they do a bunch of staircases, cool projects. Every time they call us, it's with some crazy job that we've never done before. We're trying to push the limit, and we make a lot of cool jobs with them. Like we did Yoko Ono's Sky Landing. It's in Chicago, but it's like these giant 12-foot stainless steel pedals that are in the ground at an angle, but they wanted to have an organic feel. So each pedal we had to curve a little bit differently to not be symmetrical. So it's on our Instagram page somewhere, but yeah, that was a cool one. But every job, anybody that calls us and wants to do something creative, we're like, yes, let's do it.
And sometimes we'll do just a sample. We'll see, you buy the steel.
Sure.
We'll try a sample. We'll see what it can do, just to, not take them down a road that.
We've done some stories in the Fabricator featuring Chicago metal roll products, and there's that whole issue about working with these materials,
right?
And the materials don't necessarily kind of want to cooperate sometimes.
Yes.
So it's kind of amazing. Or there like any Chicago jobs maybe that pop out in terms of like being that kind of challenging, but also kind of noteworthy.
I think Millennium Park.
Yeah.
Supposedly, I was not there, but Frank Gehry took straws to make that trellis. Well, a straw's a lot easier than steel.
Right.
So we had to figure out the radius and how they were going to. We didn't connect them, but made sure that they could connect. He had to be within 1/8 of an inch, right? I mean,
yeah, that's Jay Pritzker Pavilion.
Yes. That's a great Chicago one. There's one that I love that's new. It's probably not even up there. St. Nicholas Church.
Oh, yeah. That's
St. Nicholas Church in New York. It came down. It was a small Greek Orthodox church that was destroyed at 9/11. Have you guys heard this? And they, after, I think it was the Port Authority or somebody, gave them back the land at 9/11. So there's a famous architect, Santiago Calatrava,
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
and he built this church. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
wow.
it. So that just opened in December,
No kidding. Wow,
and
that's
it's
beautiful.
kind of non-denominational. We did the dome and we did the naves inside. So it wasn't real. We didn't make gazillions of dollars
Right,
on
right.
it, but this is going to outlast us.
Yeah.
And that is a great feeling for,
Well, I
for
mean,
me.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's non-denominational. It's geared toward peace.
Yeah.
So the message that church has, that we are part of it,
Right.
is pretty fascinating.
No,
Yeah,
it's
see, we
beautiful
did
to
that.
see like a work
Look at-
like that is actually designed to kind of stand out and
Mhm.
be actually a contribution to the architectural landscape.
Yes,
Instead
yeah,
of just like a you
right.
know,
So
something to
yeah,
house people.
Exactly.
we did the dome.
Well,
Yeah.
that's like really all we want to do, help people create beautiful things that are in their mind and make it a better place for our community, for
Yeah.
architecture and
So,
design.
it's funny. You're Gareth is kind of going through the Instagram page, and I know, we're located in northwest of Chicago where we're doing this in Elgin. But if you go through Chicago, something as simple as like there's one particular bridge over the Chicago River that with the red supports.
It was for the Democratic Convention, I believe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So not the river. So you're speaking like the North
Yeah,
Randolph,
right,
Yeah, yeah,
Randolph.
yeah.
Is that the one you're talking about?
I'm very familiar with
Right.
that too because it stands out because not all the overpasses have that.
Right, or the 606 bridge, could it be?
Maybe.
606
Yeah.
bridges
Yeah.
cool.
My point being is like even the stuff you take for granted and you see kind of regularly, to be able to contribute that is almost to me, almost as noteworthy. 'Cause
Right.
inevitably the questions with metal fabricators that I love having is like just going around like, hey, see that right there? I talked to those people. They're like, oh, really? But people like they don't realize stuff is made. I don't know where they think it happens, but this stuff is really like even some of the most basic stuff. There's so much skill and talent involved in pulling it together.
We're involved with the ACE program. If you guys do know the ACE program, it's for young students in high school, and they give scholarships, and it's architecture, construction, and engineering.
Okay.
It's usually in kids that maybe not have opportunities that other
Right.
ones do. So we're involved with that, and every year, so they get great internships with Gensler, with great architects and engineering firms, Walsh Construction. But every year they come through our facility,
Yeah.
and they are amazed because they've been in these office buildings and they've never seen manufacturing, and they're like, how did you bend that piece of metal into a circle? I mean, they could sit there and watch it for hours, and that's really fun for us because they see the nuts and bolts. This is
Well, in
how
a way,
it's
isn't
done.
it? And it's it's a nutshell, right, of what manufacturing is, because so many people maybe, well, it doesn't age-wise, it doesn't really matter, but manufacturing can be looked at as this dirty industry. Yet you're 100+ year, fourth generation company, and what you're doing, like you said, you basically help build somebody's dream or thought, and it's literally adding color to what might have been black and white drawn on in their head or on a piece of paper.
Well, it is still dirty. I mean, it's
Yeah,
still, it's
it
still a
is.
shop.
It's still a shop.
You don't want to wear a white outfit into our shop
right,
facility.
yeah.
That's good. advice.
But yeah, and the opportunities there. We're looking at all these layoffs at these giant tech companies. We are, I think, in the manufacturing community, need more young people to get involved in this. It's
Right.
There's so much growth that needs to happen, that is happening, that people can take advantage of. They should.
Yeah, so like these scholarships are a great way
Exactly.
Yes, it is.
to tie
right.
right into it.
And that's how we got the intern that thought because he was part of the ACE group.
Yeah.
Really?
And he said, oh, I thought they made steel here. And I'm like, oh boy.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
so it's funny once you learn how steel is made, it becomes that much more humorous.
Right.
Yeah.
Where do you keep your
Exactly.
furnace?
The giant
So
pot.
how do you make that transition? You welcoming somebody into your company, say to work on the shop floor. Do they do small projects like stairs first? Do they are they separate? They're separate paths they can take.
The foot landing.
Stairs are not a small project.
Yeah. But in terms of scale,
Do they
I
get a
know.
Understand,
railing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to me, doing stairs, albeit your company's probably doing very sophisticated stuff, but for a lot of fabricators, that's kind of what they get started, doing
Right.
small, especially if they want to work on their own, stairs, fences, things like that. How does one find the path within Chicago Metal Roll product?
No experience needed. I mean, anybody.
No experience needed. We'll teach you everything.
Do people specialize, or do they kind of do a variety of things on the shop floor?
No, the more machines you know how to work, the better it is. So, but there's some people that like their machine. They're a little territorial.
Okay.
So if somebody new comes in, what we do is actually put them with very talented, probably the best bender rollers, the machine operators there. But it's a rough road because these guys don't want to waste their time teaching somebody that doesn't want to know. So if they can work with guys, then they can stay.
Yeah.
If they can't, they'll leave at lunch.
Right. And have they?
Yes.
No. I think that's a common story.
Yeah.
But you said, you made the comment, I don't know whether it was early or before we started, but if they stay kind of 6 months, you probably have somebody for a long term.
Yes. We have most of our employees have been there. Even our office, we had one person right before COVID that came in, but other than that, everybody's been there at least 10 years, I believe.
I think I'm the newest in the office.
Oh yeah, besides
actually.
you and Christopher, right? But besides family, everybody that's there, and half of the office is under 40.
Okay.
So they came in their 20s, and they love it. It's a job where they're not stuck behind a computer and a desk all the time. They're out in the shop. The shop is in our office. It's a very collaborative community.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. We were talking about titles and introductions earlier. You didn't want to give a title. And
we don't.
of course, your daughter goes by one name.
Right.
I'll figure it out. Maybe by the end of this podcast. Who knows?
Yeah, I know. No, none of us like titles.
Yeah.
We'll do anything. We answer the phones regularly. Everybody. We expect everybody. I think we all work really hard, and we expect everybody else to work hard.
Yeah. Does that make the communication with the customer that much easier, being that if people who are taking the phone call have those conversations, or sometimes might have even come from the shop floor? I'm not sure.
I don't think they know who they're talking to.
Well, it's also like a group effort. If somebody calls and say, hey, guys, I've got this really interesting job. This guy wants to do this or that. It's a group discussion amongst our team to say, all right, what's the best outcome that we can provide for our customer?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like call and you're done. It's like all right, let's figure this out step by step so we can make it a good experience for them.
Yeah. Always end up talking about size. How thick a plate can you roll?
Up to 2 inches, 2.5 inches, depends on the radius.
You see that a lot?
We do see a lot of big stuff like that, yes.
Mm-hmm. Is it primarily for, I don't know, what is it for?
It could be for a bunch of things. Sometimes we don't even, like the Google project, sometimes we don't even know where this steel is ending up. We're just a middleman.
Right.
So a lot of times we don't know where it ends up, but a lot of like tank vessels, stuff like that.
Yeah. So not all structural type stuff.
Not all structural.
No. Yeah, okay.
We do a lot of OEM parts as well.
Okay.
I mean, you can see it on our website, but we kind of touch, the cool thing about our business is that we touch every single industry, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like we do residential stairs, but we also do tank vessels.
Yeah.
Pneumatic conveyors, OEM parts, stuff like that. So it's kind of cool. Artwork, sculptures. So it's an interesting place to be. You might see a piece of steel. It might be going into, I don't know, a tank. It might be a part of a sculpture. It might be part of a chair. You have no idea.
Right. No, it makes for a very exciting type of industry.
Yeah.
What's the learning curve for somebody in your organization to feel part of the team?
They call it a learning bend.
Learning bend.
It's very good.
Very good. We're going to use that. What's the learning?
Are you talking about out in the machine, out in the shop?
Yeah.
To
where
feel
somebody finally feels a part of the team, like instead of just learning,
new
they're
guy?
contributing.
I would say a couple months.
Yeah.
3 or 4 months until they get, we expect them, if they really want to do it, they'll learn it quickly. And so then they'll hopefully be able to run a machine by themselves and do an order. So that I think when you do something like that, they own it.
Yeah.
They own it. It's not just a piece of curved metal. It's going to go somewhere. We try to hang up pictures. It's hard because we don't know what we're doing all the time. So we'll chase down, what is this for? Just to show people,
Right.
this is what you made. This is what you did.
Awesome.
And it's going to last. The gentleman that did the Pritzker trellis, he loves taking his family down there
Yeah.
and pointing it up and saying, I made these, because
Just
it's
a
a big
reminder.
deal.
Right.
You haven't been here in 3
Yeah,
weeks. Here we are.
that's exactly what
Dad
it is.
again.
Dad, we saw it,
No, you admire it this time.
Yeah.
You mentioned bridges before, right? And we're just now. So one of the things that I guess I had read, I think, in advance of this is, the deteriorating conditions of bridges in the U.S. Well, I guess you could say anywhere, but we'll be focused mainly on the U.S. right now. I think there's some numbers you had, on your website where there were like nearly or close to 50,000 bridges that were rated poor or worse. So, and obviously there is, there's an investment headed towards a structural and bridge industry. Are you starting to see some of that type of work coming your way?
You're talking about the infrastructure bill?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we're hoping. I mean, if they, you hear one year there's this recession, the other year. So we know if there is recession, we would get some business from there. But have you? I don't actually estimate. But
Oh, okay.
I mean, no. I haven't seen a lot of bridges. Well, I mean, we obviously do bridges. We've seen a lot of pedestrian bridges. No, I don't think I'm the best person to answer that one, but
I assume a lot of the tail for that type of project is like not similar to like just private industry, being that the funds have to get their way to the states and then they have to start planning out.
That's what I
Once
think.
they're on the books.
then
I
Yeah.
think once they're on the books, they get the
Yeah.
funding, then we'll see more.
Yeah, and bridges, but I know you mentioned the 606 trail. There's all
Right.
these rail to trail conversions
That's right.
and
Yeah.
everything else.
Tons.
I assume they might be part of like spending like that.
Right.
I'm not sure, but the
And they wanna
future
make it pretty.
impact should be felt somewhere. We were talking about infrastructure, and you do so much other stuff as well that may not. I mean, my question was going to be about: do you have anybody involved in erecting some of these things, or is it strictly kind of just shop focus for y'all, and you leave that up to someone else?
No, we don't. We're definitely a job shop.
Okay, I got you.
And so
Is there any time that y'all considered maybe adding that type of capability?
to erecting, and
Yeah.
you know what? We know our business. We're bender rollers. We lead the country in it.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to go farther, it's going to be farther in bending and rolling.
Yeah, I see. I'd be remiss if not asking about multi-generational businesses.
Yeah.
We
love each
is
other.
that I guess from your perspective first, Jenny, like how has your tenure at the company been since your involvement?
So I was lucky enough to see my mother go down there. Of course, when I had children, no more babysitting. She went down to work.
Right.
Which was great. And she was very involved in the business. So as much as they say women in business, I never thought it was weird because we always talked about it as a family.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought it was pretty normal. And she'd always say, you have to go down there, you have to go down there. I raised my children. I was a stay-at-home mom. And then she had always said, you've got to come down here. After she passed, my brother Joe said, you got to come down here. Yeah, he just wanted someone to beat up. But no, we went there. I went down there, and it's been great. So they saw me go down there, I think, and they wanted to go. Everybody's gotten an opportunity to come down there, and the ones that want to have really embraced it,
Yeah.
and which is so much fun for us,
Right.
my brother and I, just to see them really. They all have their unique skills and strengths, and they like each other,
Yeah.
which is
It's
really
amazing how
helpful.
such a small thing like that is important.
Oh, yeah. It's huge.
And the
I mean,
idea that
family
if
business,
that
too.
doesn't exist, like that business is gonna be able to function normally.
Right. We did join the Loyola Family Business Group, which has been wonderful for us because you're always going to have conflict.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how you work through it is a family.
Yeah.
Because we've seen so many, I'm sure so many families that just
Right.
don't make it to the third generation. Well, we're making it to the fourth generation,
Yeah.
and they're really, all three of them are on board, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah. They all have their own strengths, which is good, so they don't step on each other's foot too much.
Right. And how's that transition been for
fun.
you?
Yeah.
I mean, just to see, we all sit in a very close
Right.
office. So, like, I'm here, my sister's here, my cousin Christopher. We're all in arm's length of each other, which is kind of close, but we have the shop. So we can go walk out in the shop if we need space or
Right.
something like that. But it's great. I never expected growing up that I'd be working with my cousin Christopher or my sister Elise, but it's been fantastic. And
Yeah.
yes, like obviously conflict is always, talking through difficult conversations. It's always going to be there, but like my mom said, it's just getting past it and thinking. I think we all have the common mentality that we're trying to create something bigger than ourselves, and we want to lead this company for the community that it's created into a better place. So
Yeah.
we're all on board with that goal.
Have y'all learned to disagree amicably?
Yeah, we'd like to say. But
Yes.
yes, we have.
I think there's something bigger than us, bigger than me.
And that's kind of the unifying, right?
Right.
Teddy case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bigger
Well,
than one person.
Yeah.
So if we're, there's always going to be a disagreement. Doesn't mean you have to throw up your arms and say we can't work on this.
Right.
We work through it, and there's more than us. There's more than my brother and myself, and more than our children. We're responsible for everybody that works there, and they're part of our family too. So you've got to do it for them also.
Yeah.
You have to get along for the bigger picture.
And you keep that coin handy. The
Yeah.
We
decision
do
coin.
keep that coin.
All right, which way are we
You know
going?
what? They don't own that business anymore.
So how's the transition with your peers in terms of telling them what you do for a living?
They do not understand it at all.
I asked her
Like-
that.
like-
I said,
like-
does anybody know what you do?
They don't.
So what's your elevator pitch to them?
Yeah.
My elevator
ask.
pitch is I just show them our Instagram page because you say, oh, we're a bender roller. We bend and roll steel. Even at the simplest explanation, like a piece of steel comes in straight and we curve it. It's hard sometimes if you're not in that fabricating realm to understand it.
Right.
So I just have to do it visually through photos.
Yeah.
And then still they'll be like, oh, so you painted this red? And you're like, no.
Yeah, like that, the Greek Orthodox Church.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
we were up there.
Yeah, we
doing-
painted
yeah.
those murals. I'm like, no, not quite. But and it's, I have a lot of friends in, the tech industry that unfortunately are getting laid off right now. And it's the opposite of what we're dying for people to come into manufacturing, right? Yeah. So it's interesting to see the two play out right now.
Do you have peers that, it's kind of unique for people to own a business? It's very unique as the business gets, passed down to generations. Any of your peers are in a similar situation? Maybe they work for a family company?
I have some, yeah.
Okay.
And also in this Loyola group, you're with other family groups,
Okay.
So that's been very helpful. But I mean, really, if Elise, Christopher, and I, like, that's my peers that I talk with about family business.
Yeah. With people coming into the company, I've interviewed some shop owners where they've had people come from retail and make the transition to where my favorite one recently was the guy that used to own his own pizza shop, and now he's driving a truck for this one fab company. Cool. And they love it, and I guess the dude's loving his job. But have you seen that transition as people look for something a little bit more challenging or just a new field?
We haven't
Not really, yeah.
So mostly people who are just
Right.
kind of looking to start off then, huh?
Right. We had we just hired a controller because our controller has been there 38 years, and
Okay.
I wish he wasn't leaving. I wish he could take a little lasso and pull him right in, but we have to let Ray do what he wants to do. And I was very concerned of our location, and I thought, okay, is our location going to throw people off because it's not a beautiful building?
Right.
And it's not
Very
the city.
nondescript.
Yes.
I mean, for
And
being
we're in
in
the
a
middle of the
residential,
city,
it blends
right,
in a little
yeah.
bit.
And luckily, we found someone right away, and he's been there around a month, and he's great.
Yeah.
But I was concerned about the location and just that it's not pretty. It's not pretty. It's dirty. It's
Yeah.
gritty.
Yeah.
But he likes that. So that's great.
You think there's like that? Because I think, the pendulum's swinging a little bit in terms of people seeking out non-traditional. The idea of sitting behind a desk, and you've seen elements of it in like the maker movement and what Etsy. People are kind of wanting to do their own thing and just get out of the rat race. Maybe that kind of fueling more interest in having qualified people reach out and not be afraid to be a part of a company that may have a little bit of dirt on the floor in the shop.
I do. I think that I think it is swinging. I think people want to get their hands dirty. I don't think they want to be in a little tower where it's so sterile. This is not. This is really loud, place. And I think they see stuff being created.
Yeah. When you're on the shop floor as a woman, is that not a big deal at CMRP?
I don't think it's a big deal. They knew my mother, who'd go out there and smoke her cigarettes with them, because at that point you could smoke cigarettes on the shop floor.
Office.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, she was, she'd be out there, saying, "Can you get my order done?"
Drop these ashes
until she worked there until she was like 89. I mean, she worked there a long time.
Awesome.
So I've never felt it ever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I think really sometimes these businesses are reflections of the people that run them, own them, and maybe if there's an issue, maybe there's we all know where that issue comes from sometimes. But it's nice to hear that transition. Big plans for the company in the future? Well, you did hint at it.
There's more coming.
There's more coming. We're adding
to our
capabilities.
Yeah, we're really excited.
So product and processes? Are we machine?
There are big things coming.
Okay.
You have decent
I don't take
reach
notes.
with your shop now. There's never been conversation to maybe establish an outpost, say out west, or
we have in Kansas City.
Yeah, Kansas City.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
So we do. So we have a small business down there. Just talked to Tina, to kind of reach out west. So we're closer to Arizona, to Colorado, because there aren't a lot of bender rollers that are our size down in that western area. Mm-hmm.
Oh, we do have big things. We'll be at NASCC.
Right.
So if you guys are there, please stop by our booth.
Definitely.
We'll give you some more goodies.
Yeah, we'll give you some
there you go. And if you are there, feel free to visit as well.
Yeah.
Be in Charlotte. Do we know the date?
Charlotte, no.
April 12th, 13th, 14th, I think.
Right.
Yes, good
If
call.
I'm not mistaken.
Ken Pecco will actually be doing a talk on extreme bending. So it'll really talk about the breadth of our capabilities, but also everybody calls up and says, so can you roll how tight can you roll a 44-inch I-beam the hard way?
Yeah.
Well, Ken Pecco will be addressing a lot of those questions.
I've had a chance to interview Ken, and even it sounds funny, if you're a fan of metal bending, but really it is quite fascinating.
It is
in terms
fascinating.
of what can be done and what has to be done to attain some of the shapes kind of people ask you for.
He loves to talk about deformation.
Yeah.
Loves it.
I sit
right next to him, and he's talking about the molecules going back and forth, and I'm like, wow, you know a lot, Ken.
Non-stop deformation that'll keep him out of the legal courtroom.
Yeah, he's such a wealth of knowledge. He's great.
Awesome.
Nice.
Well, thanks for visiting us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you need anything bent the hard way
or
the
easy way,
or the easy way,
feel free and reach out to our friends Chicago Metal Roll Products. And I'm supposed to do plugs right now. Rate, subscribe.
Review, subscribe.
Wherever you get your podcasts. And also contact us at podcast@thefabricator.com.